Welcome back, crafty friends. It's Dawn at Red Barn Crafty Stuff. As promised, I am now going to try to use up what is left in this poor pathetic. I think I mentioned before, I'm going to leave these globule bits here, but I'm trying to get the wells cleaned out. And so what my plan is I have another plastic palette with some beautiful rainbow assortment, but don't ask me what's on it. So my plan is to just dodge this, neutralize it, desaturate it, pick your word, and take, some red for the green here. And then this looks like this might be the very precious Quinn Gold. Yeah, there's fuzzies in this one too, sorry. Here, to go with the blue. With Lola's left. There's not a lot of blue left. I've got like a couple of reds going on here. So I'm going to do this in real time because I have not, I've seen it done, never done it. So we're about to play in real time. And this time I did not tape the sketchbook, my sketchbook of my tactile dreams. I just drew with my Faber-Castell stencil. It's a little stained glass pattern. I just plop, 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 and off we go. Okay, so let's see if we can get these colors. And to be fair, I'm going to move this just a little bit this way because I think I need to test this too. So let's grab a testy strip. And I may have to grab some tube. I really want to try to use this up though, so it'd be great if I could just do a globule, but then I've got 4.5 that are green. Well, this is kind of a green blue. All right, shut up and start doing. Okay. Let's start with this one. I'm just gonna, and I'm using my trusty Pentel water brush, the little one. I probably ought to be using the big one now that I say that out loud, but here we go. All right, I'm going to move this book aside because, I have the propensity to schmooch things up if I'm not being careful. Or just life. Let's bring it down a little closer too. Zoomy zoom. This looks like a very bright, like a pyro red, if you ask me, but knowing my own palette the way I do, or what's in my box, I think that's probably what that is. Which one? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna go for what I consider to be the most evergreen or most Kelly green of the bunch, and I'm just gonna stick that in here. Wow, that is very muddy, and that is not what I was looking for. I may have just messed this up, and the horse just got out of the barn. Might have just needed a drop or two, and I put a whole bunch of red. A little goes a long way. Well, the good news is I got 3 other ones to practice on. Wow, that is muddy as hell, brown. I discovered puke green. That is not an attractive green. Okay, well, let's swatch it. We're not adding any more pigment to this one. Okay, I don't hate that. It looks a lot grosser in there than it does here. And this is, I think this is Canson. I think this is crap paper, but I'm sorry, Canson. You make wonderful paper. You're a fabulous paper maker. Here we go. Okay, let's try it again in this one, but with less red. So I'm actually gonna get rid of that green, puce green. That's not a color. Puce green is not a color. It's puce yellow. All right, let's try that again, but let's do this. Let's experiment this way. Let's do 2 drops, 1, 2, out of my pipette, and then let's just grab a swish and a flick of the red and see if that's a little better. It's a bit of a mad scientist going on over here. All happening in very real time. All right, let's swatcheroo this. See, now I don't think that's that much of a change. It may not be. Do I? Don't I? Let's clean the brush. Do we grab a tad more? Ooh. This is one of those where you wish you go back, don't do it. But it was too late. All right. This is definitely my more forest green color. Okay. Very mossy. Sorry, helps if I'm on camera, doesn't it? Okay, well, that's what we've got now. Well 1, well 2. Moving on. Let's clean that brush. I think that helped. I think wetting it first, runaway pipette, was good. Let's do the blue, because we're gonna have green for days here. So let's drop in a couple drops. 1, 2 from the pipette. And then let's wet down this. I'm thinking this is Quinn Gold, which I hate to. I'm just going to use a couple swakes here. All right, so I'm activating the orangey gold. This may not work because it's not truly an orange. And it's more of a yellow because it's got that Nicolazo yellow in it. Okay, but I'm not mad about this color. What is this color? And we may go get a true orange off our palette. I've got a pyro orange. Oh, 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 oh. No, we do not. Okay, y'all might like... Oh, sorry, I did it again. For those of you in the background going, yes, that's a beautiful green. No, I hate it. Hate, hate. Double hate. Loathe entirely. All right, so I have an orange, but where? But what would I wear? Here we go. Off camera, obviously, I'm grabbing a palette, which is what I should have done to begin with, of orange. Okay, so now we're going to activate. I think I'm going to go on camera. Yeah. Oh, shoot. I didn't clean that brush. Oh, well. All right. We've got a little skosh there. And let's see what we get here. That might not be enough to slow down all of that green. Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to need more than that, but let's see. Yeah, that didn't do... That green says, yeah, what else you got? All right. Grabbing a tad more of the orange. I'm getting it really loaded here. Well, relative. All right. Wow, that's an interesting color. Okay. Oh, I like that. But we're back to green again. Is this going to be is this the story of greens? Apparently. Okay, well, we're going to leave that color. So that's that color. Now we're going to modify these other two. All right, well, since we got the orange palette out, and there's red on the other side of this bad boy, we're just going to, we're going to do some, okay, so we're going to add 2 drops. 1, 2. Go ahead and do it to all 4. 1, 2, 1. Oh, I'm just doing 1 to that. That baby's got barely anything in it. Okay. All right. So now let's just go around the wheel a little bit. We won't be able to recreate it, but that's the way it goes. I'm going to go this way. It looks like a vermilion, but That's what we're gonna do. Wow, that is not a pretty color. Oh boy, that is not a pretty color. All right. And yet, why does that look so brown in there? And it's like a green brown. All right. Well, I say we just go for it. I mean, this is all about experimenting and having a little fun. And if you're not sitting here overthinking it, I'm going to go to this end of the Oops, sorry. I'm going to go to this end of the spectrum, I think, here. I think I'm going to go a little blue red. We're going to go a little crazy. Wish us luck. And let's see what mad scientist concoction we can come up with here. Again, it looks absolutely putrid and not a color I would try to get intentionally. And yet, for landscapes, other than these emeralds here, I think these are quite pretty for landscapes, right? Okay, let's see. Oh. Well, I'm going to leave that. Maybe I ought to dodge it a little bit more. Okay. A little bit more, you say? A little bit more. I'm just going to grab a small little scoopy off camera and put it in here. Like a half scoopy. It's a very technical term. Very precise. All right. Let's see if we made that a little darker. I don't think we did a darn thing. Nope, don't think we did. All right. One more little half a scoopy. So now we know we're up to 2 full scoopies. Let's see. We're going to get back to olive, I'm afraid, but maybe it'll be a different olive because we've got different pigments and we've got different variables that we cannot possibly measure and replicate. And I feel like we're going to just stop there before we get ourselves past the point of no return. All right. Got one left? One left. Then we can start our stained glass experiment number 2. All right, so this last one, there's not a lot of pigment in here. It's leaning a little blue. So I'll go back to my orange again. And I think I'm going to pick this Tennessee Volunteer Orange. Sorry, balls. No shade meant. But I'm not going to go crazy with the amount of pigment. In fact, I'm pushing the bulb a little bit to push some pigment back out. All right. What are we going to get here? I think that's Pyro Orange, but don't quote me. All right, that's looking like a nice green. I mean, the whole point of this was just to find a more muted palette, right? Well, it went from blue to green. Just not loving it. But, all right, let's do a fresh swatch of all the colors where we are now and see if we want to alter any before we get going. So whenever these are just offcuts that I keep of paper when I'm doing projects that I have to size it down or whatever, I just keep these. All right, let's do, we'll do them in the order they are on the palette. So we've got this color here. And then we've got, and if there's some that are just too close, I may go try to add a little bit more to see if we can throw a change up. These are I squeezed the brush and now it's like the water's going, hello. All right, and then let's try this guy right here. Well, so far so good. I feel like we're getting different versions of green. I don't see any dupes there, really. I mean, there's some cousins there, but no twins. Okay. I say we have our palette. I'm going to put these other guys off to the side. Bring our big book back in. Let's see. Oh. Glaring big. Okay. So in case you didn't notice, I completely forgot to trace that spot. Let me see if I can find where it was. It was here. Because what I do when I'm doing this is I do it this way, and then I flip it that way, and then I flip it. So I have to line it back up. Now I just lost my place again. Here we go. I completely forgot a segment right there. Which, you know, I would have figured it out when... Oh, I forgot two, actually. Well, easily fixed. And I just use a pretty light touch when I'm doing this, so that the lines aren't super, super standy outy. All right, so 15 minutes in, now we finally start painting. To remind ourselves, this is our palette we're dealing with, and it started, oops, it was this. Very, very undersea. Ariel comes home to visit King Triton colors. Ooh, camera. So now we're going more into the Shire. Yeah, I did it. I went nerdy. All right. Can't get organized here. One of the things I like about this stencil is that they're not, they're irregular shapes. They have, you know, they have, there's not points, and there's a lot of flats on them. And I think that's kind of cool. This is super, I have no idea how old these stencils are, if they're even available. But just, I like it for that reason. Because I'm not a very precise painter. I'm still working on my, I guess, brush skills is the right word. And what I'm doing right now is I'm going round robin. I'm just going here to here to here, and then I went back to this one, and in no particular order. I'm just going round robin with it. I find the less you think about it and the more you just do it, the better the outcome. Overthinking it is far too likely for me to do, but it is, oh, I think I'm going to like this dodged color. These, sorry, these desaturated pigments. I think that's the right word. And I think some of them are going to look pretty similar when put on this paper, if I had to guess. Even though I swatched them. But that's okay. I could go back, and if I feel like that, I could go back and add like a Payne's gray. These two are from different wells, but they look a lot alike, don't they? I'm not sure how alike they look on camera, but in person they look a fair amount similar. Let me think. Do I want to add Payne's gray now before I get too far down the pike? I might. Okay, so I just added a little shadow violet to this one because it reads too much like these two once I'm starting to putting them side by side. So here it is with shadow violet, and it's good, but I wanted to, what if? So then I added Payne's Gray to it, and now I'm swatching it, and that's more better. I like that a lot. So the shadow violet dodged it a little bit, but the Payne's Gray really deepened it, I think. So I'm very happy with that new color. And I think it's gonna, I'm just go ahead and paint it now, go ahead and add it now. I think it's gonna really, oh yeah, look at that. It's got that blue from the Payne's Gray in it, which that was a blue. No, it wasn't either, that was a green, just kidding. But that really, I think, changes that. And that's the important part of, you know, all of this to me is just not being afraid to experiment with your own stuff. How are you supposed to know it if you don't ever use it? And then if you wait to use it till you're doing something precious, then you're sitting there on pins and needles. Oh, look how rich that is. That is luscious green. If you like green, a green blue, there it is. Okay, moving on. And again, I am not cleaning out my brush in between because I feel like there's merit in what that's going to bring to that whole mother concept of the colors in conversation with each other. Okay, and then we go back to square one now with all this darker pigment in it. Let's see what that does. Let's go here. Ooh, paint boogies. I don't know how to describe what that is. And that needs to go away. All right, I'm going to paint 2 squares with this. I'm going to paint this little guy, two spaces, I should say. But he doesn't count as much, so I'm going to go do this square, this space. Still very blue leaning, but I like it. The thing about it is it's muted, and I tend to favor more muted stuff in general. These colors are what I decorate my house with, and also it's what I like to paint with. I'm scraping the sides of the walls of these mixing wells if you can hear the scratching. That's me just using up the pigment. Well, I think we ended up with a nice range of greens here. Very different from the previous blues and greens. All right, here's our Payne's Gray mixture. Brush bristle. I'm squeezing the brush slightly here to get a little more water to flow. Now I've let go. I don't want too much water. Sometimes when I pick up this pigment, I'm going to make it super saturated, super dark, super pigmented, and other times I'm just going to be like this, where it's more of a mid-tone. I think that's pleasing to the eye. It lets the eye move around the page a little bit when you have different strengths of the same color. Different hues. No, is that right? Hues? I don't know. It's very olivey. The other thing too is, if you've done a big one, the next time come around and you've grabbed that color, do a smaller size, do a different size, if you can. Just create some variety in your practice. Because even though this is practice, I have every intention of scanning these and then printing them out for uses in journals and card making and a number of things. Because once you've painted it, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Just scan it, take a photo of it with your phone, even crop it, print that puppy out on some printer paper or cardstock or whatever, and suddenly now you've got, I mean, there's lots of creators out there selling digitals, and I am not trying to discourage you from being a small business consumer at all. But if you've liked something you've painted, you love purples, and you've painted a whole bunch of purple lavender, take a photo. There's some apps out there that are very affordable that let you size it to whatever size you want. And print. Well, this is going to be Mr. Green Jeans. But that was the whole point, was just to get away from, not get away, but experiment with these colors to see. Adding a little bit of other pigment gives us some new, interesting things to play with. And I would say the answer is yes. We found some new, interesting options. This is that one that didn't have much in it. I may run out of that before we get to the end of this page. I may skip over it a couple times. The next couple times it's as I go round robin, just so that there's some more down here, more towards the bottom of the page with it, and I don't have it just at the top. And then the pattern breaks. Not that it really matters, but you know. And I went way too close to the binding on this. I didn't use tape this time, in case you didn't notice. I thought the tape was kind of superfluous to the whole idea of I'm coloring in things that are already traced. Really didn't have to worry about needing a border, but I'm afraid I went a little too close to that binding, and that's not making me happy, but we will figure it out. All right, this color, Okay, I got a lot of this pigment, so let's go big. Let's go here. Who knows? We might finish up this palette. Really? No. Obscure movie quote. Yeah. We're full of those obscure movie one-liners here at our house. Everybody looks at us like we've got a third eye. Water brush painting is very different than using a standard watercolor brush because the water will just start coming out and you don't have as much control. But I don't mind. I play along. I'm going to go down here and do this one. See, this is that dark one there, so I'm going darker with it. So I'm also going smaller. That was intentional. Because I probably would have wanted to go there, but I'm not going to do two. Now I might do that again and go with this darker pigment, darker saturation. But I'm going to go with this guy. This paper is really thirsty, so as soon as I put the pigment down, it's just grabbing it. So I'm having to scrub out the lines a little bit. Which then makes the brush release more water, but that's okay. There's some granulation also happening here, but again, that's okay. We're just playing. funny because as I'm looking at the screen on this, it just seems so much darker on the screen than it is in real life. I wonder how it's going to be, you know, on video, because screens can be deceiving. But I'm really enjoying these colors. Even if they're less ocean-like and a bit more forest-like, but that's the joy of pigment, right? All these variations. In hindsight, what I probably should have done was pick the same pigment, red or orange, and put it into all of the bit trays to see if that would unify them in a way. But I think we got there in the end anyway. You know, as you sit here, and as I sit here and paint, I'm thinking, as one does. And I thought, you know, self, that's how I talk to myself, self. What you should have done was found an orange or a red and just added it to all of them. That would have been smarter. But that's what mad scientist experimentation is about. Just trying things out and see what happens. Right now I am doing a little bit of mixing where I'm grabbing one color, and then when I go back and get a little more pigment, I'm grabbing a different color. I like doing that too. It's very unexpected results, but that's, you get what you get. And as my favorite maker says, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. So I grabbed green, well obviously green, these are all green, and then I'll put the blue in here with it and see. Oh, this almost looks black. This is the one that added Payne's grade to. And Shadow Violet. Lest we forget. I've been thinking about digging out some of my liquid watercolors. Like I have P.H. Martin, and then I have got some other pigments in there. I have ooh, sometimes the brain just goes goodbye. I have the pigment powders. Not real sure how I would do that, except for maybe just to throw it down in a well and add some mixing well and add some water to them. Thought about playing around with those. I also have some inks. I have a ton of inks. My word, I have Liquitex ink and Amsterdam ink, De La Rowney, a whole host of them actually. Be fun to swatch those out too. I know they're not watercolor, but it's still fun to see what pigments you have and what they will do. Do I want to do this big one? I guess I am. This going to be a smorgasbord of colors. But for now, I think I'm going to leave this book as watercolor practice or watercolor exercises, just so that I have a reference, if nothing else. For things that are water soluble. Ooh, I have Neo colors and gelatos. So many things I've bought over the years, and you forget the toys you have in your toy box, right? Out of sight, out of mind. I also have ink tints by Derwent, but those aren't watercolors because they're India ink. So those would go in the India ink book. Oh, I guess I gotta make another book. Drat. Darn. Phooey. Rats. My pigments are drying, or my wells are getting dry. I have to re-wet them or wet my brush a bit more. It's kind of streaky. I don't care. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. And I might do something crazy like, ooh, yep, I did it. I grabbed a little bit of that, looks like Prussian blue. Just a little scooshy scoosh. Because I can't leave well enough alone. Yeah, see what I'm doing here is I'll move it back in the frame. I'm like grabbing this, and then I go, ooh, what's that? Nobody look. I'm cleaning up the palette. It's within bounds. Not going to a whole other rogue palette. I'm staying on this one. There's no rules. There's no crying in watercolor. That's a big gap right there. I probably am going to come back and take my stencil and find one that would fit in that space. I don't like that spot. It's too big. It may have missed it. It's probably got a shape and I just totally overlooked it. I see it now as I'm filling in the colors. It's glaringly obvious. Okay, I'm going to do some watered down versions. These are all so intense. But I'm going to take a second and see if I can find a shape that might fit there. Yeah. I know I could probably try to line it back up, but let's go rogue. Let's just do this one. Boom. Done. Alright, let's do a really watered down version of something. Let's squeeze out a bunch of water out of my pen. Brush. It feels like a pen. Well, that doesn't feel very watered down, does it? So much for watered down. It's a lot of water, but there's no... Alright, let's go over here and just keep going and see. Do what we've done in the past, where we just keep going until we run out of pigment. In the, you know, in the bristles of the brush. Oh, that was tracing. Alright, I'm gonna go back and grab some of that. The great part about using a stencil like this one, where it's got a very non-traditional pattern, non-obvious pattern, is that if you get to the edge of your page, you can end your shape like that one however you want. Nobody's to know that that shape isn't on the stencil. My sister likes to make cards for people. Birthday cards. Sympathy cards, thinking of you. And she comes over about once a month or so and we sit and make cards. And she's new to paper crafting and it's a newly discovered hobby and she's loving it. Absolutely in love with it. And so she sits and makes cards while I sit and paint or work on paper projects, collage projects, or whatever it is I'm working on that day, and we just sit and have a conversation, like kind of like I'm conversing with you, whoever's listening now. It's kind of a quiet, calm conversation, and she'll say things like, "Oh, something on this card isn't quite right. It needs to pop," or she's making a whole bunch of them. And they don't all match, and I'll say to her all the time, I'm like, nobody's going to know the idea you had in your head for that card. Nobody's going to know the idea that I had in my head with this stencil. They're just going to see the end result. And oftentimes I find, probably you do too, if I walk away from something I've done for a period of time, an hour, a day, a week, a month, years even, I come back to it and I like it so much better after I've walked away from it and come back. We're very hard on ourselves in the moment because we have this expectation in our head. Oh, it should have been this color or that shape, or Letting go of that expectation is a challenge. I am not saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying I recognize it. I struggle with it. One of my dear friends and artists and mentor taught me years ago to do two things. One is to leave the room, stand it up across the, stand it up on its end against a wall. Walk out of the room with your back to it. Don't look at it. Walk out of the room. Go get the mail, whatever, come back. And then walk in the room and have it be at the far end of the room from where you come in. And then, oh, look where I did that real close. And then see what you think about it. And the other thing she taught me to do was to take a picture of it with my phone, iPad, whatever. And, there's a couple lessons with the iPhone, taking a picture, because you could turn it into black and white or grayscale or whatever, but just in general, just to take a picture of it. And somehow, and I still to this day don't quite know how, it looks different in a photo. You could be staring at it, looking at it like that missing piece right there, and not see that missing triangle or that missing gap. And you take a photo and you go, well, there's a missing piece. Look, here's another one. I just saw it. And another one right there. Your eyes do tricks. They do. And when you look at it in another perspective, you see it differently. Whether it be time, across the room, on a screen, you see it different. And perspective is everything, I say. All right, I'm going to have to go get my stencil back out and fix those two glaring, gaping holes. Silly me. I do it every time, though. I have to make myself go look. Recently I had a viewer say something in my comments about patience that I have to do this, and I would agree. This requires some patience, and at the time when I first read the comment, my thought was, to myself, was that I didn't feel like it required patience, because I think of this practice as an opportunity to exercise a muscle or several muscles, and not the destination or the end goal being to have a finished product. And, that's really easy for me to say now, but for anybody that knows me or has been around me at all, they would be able to say with some assurance that this is a true statement. That is a new way of me being in the world. There was a time when, well, all of my life, I suppose, I was so anxious for the destination, the journey was almost all forgotten. All but forgotten. Or the journey was certainly not appreciated. And it was seen as something to put up with this, imaginary finish line ahead. Whatever it was. Raising children, or seeking a job promotion, or insert life's dilemma or life's journeys here. And my artwork was no exception to that. I saw a pile of laundry as something to get through, and not, or a pile of dishes as to something to get through so I could get to something else that I would enjoy more. And there's truth in that. But what I'm trying to say is that I haven't always thought this way. I've always been very eager, task-oriented, tick a box, next. And I still am that way about things, but I'm practicing the art of enjoying the moment, which is a new practice for me, and I'm enjoying it, the practice. Wow, that's kind of redundant. Well, anyway, I find that when I'm doing these exercises, not only are my hand and my arms and my fingers, getting the exercise, and the muscle memory, but also I'm just having a moment where I'm not thinking, which is fun for me, especially, or more commonly, working out larger problems in the background of my head, I suppose. And it gives those problems space. It gives them their own moment where they can occupy the RAM, as it were, of my brain. My son, who's in his mid-20s, loves to joke with me about my memory. I have what I consider to be fairly good memory. Better than average, even. My son, however, is on the spectrum and a bit more Sheldon Cooper-like, where he remembers every detail, painfully, for the rest of us. But the thing I was going to say is that he'll make a comment about me forgetting something or what have you. And I've come to the realization that it's not that your memory gets bad. It's just a storage issue. You have more things to remember. The older you get, the more you've lived, the more things you have to remember. and you choose to keep in the, and there's a finite amount of space. This is my theory. There's a finite amount of space. And so you keep up front and readily available on your desktop, if you will, all the things that you could or should need at a moment's notice. And other things get filed away in a filing cabinet. It's not that you don't have it. It's not that you can't get it or retrieve it. You just might need a few minutes to get up and across the room, and metaphorically speaking, of course, and retrieve that item. So things like phone numbers or, I don't know, whatever. While they were very important as a girl, I had to know phone numbers, and I still remember phone numbers from my childhood. Because I had to memorize them because we didn't have any other choice. But now, I couldn't tell you my son's phone number. Because I don't have to. My phone remembers it for me, right? So, my point is, I think when I get quiet, it frees up some space in my brain when I do this exercise. It frees up some space to let other things that have been sitting in the background waiting their turn to go, okay, my turn. And of course there's always the earworm that says, oh no, it's my turn. And you desperately try to push that to the back and go, no, 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 I don't need you. And yet there it is. This morning's earworm, fireball. Why? Don't know. And if you have it now, thank you. You've taken it from me. And I'm sorry. Kinda. Keep trying to mentally water these down a bit more so that we can get some variation in these hues, but I seem to keep falling back to my pattern of grabbing a lot of pigment. So I'm going to squeeze this brush now and see if I can make this one get... Okay, I just squeezed it once, not 3 times. Okay. Let me add some water from a pipette to see if I can... There, that's better. That's kind of what I was looking for. Yeah, I think I am going to put some clear water in some of these just to dilute the pigment a bit. Like a couple drops each. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. All right. Also, I have my pan tilted so they'll run towards they'll all run to the bottom. I have no idea if that's going to help or not, but one can hope. Yeah, I like seeing these lighter ones. I was watching a YouTube video recently where this artist, this guy named Bob Burge out in California, I love him. He was talking about 0 to 10 colors, using colors in a monochromatic way with starting with 10, you're fully pigmented, going all the way up to 0 by just watering. He was working in acrylics. The concept works for anything really. It's fluid, watercolor, and he was watering it down and just taking it all the way to a 0 with barely any pigment in it at all, and how it makes very interesting. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of exactly what I'm doing here. Is I'm playing around with the different levels of water so that I can achieve different And it's different saturations of the pigment, and I like it. And this is kind of practice for me to see how much it takes to, because we desaturated the color, and then the water is going to desaturate the pigment. And I do tend to like these colors a little. Well, it's not that I like them better, but they feel different, and I can appreciate the usefulness of these washes rather than the stronger pigments, which also have their use, because like when I was doing my negative space painting, I've done a couple of those now, and you've got to have, you need it all. You need the really pale, and then you need the really dark at the end. Ooh, this is gloppy. It's like the pigment separated. I'm going to we can get it going here. Not a problem. Now let's rub that down a little bit. Oh yeah, look how pretty that is. And a much more even tone and texture than some of the predecessors up here. These are much more, well, whatever. You need it all. That's the end of that diatribe. Just like people, right? And professions and disciplines, we need it all. I will never be a runner. If you see me running, there's a bear behind me. But we need those people. And while I don't understand what that does for people that like to run, I have runners in my family. I don't understand it. I don't have to. Just like they don't have to understand what I'm doing. I can respect it without understanding it. But just to be clear, you see me running, probably ought to run too. Probably something bad behind me. Or something good in front of me. I'll run to my children. Yep. Or to a good meal. Oh. Now we strike a chord. Palette update. I know some of you won't believe it, but we're starting to get to, well, see, I've still got a lot of ink here. But, well, pigment technically, but I might have to move this book soon. Yeah, I'm gonna move it. Move the water. Okay, I'm going to shift this up a little bit. I got to move these blocks out of the way. These are next, I'm pretty sure. But I haven't even opened them. They're still in plastic. For shame. Alright. Shift the room. Oops, I was in this pigment over here. I'm a paper artist primarily, which is funny that I'm sitting here playing with watercolors this last month so much, but I also have artist ADHD, which means I can't do any one particular medium for very long before I got to swap. I have like 3: watercolor, paper. I'm a maker in general, but the other one I really love, really love, is encaustic or encaustic-like effects. But again, that's kind of a paper medium, but yet not. I mean, paper's involved, but I'm a collage artist. I love collage, but not in the cut up a magazine, send a scary note kind of collage. I actually like to collage with old vintage paper and with found papers. And I went to this weekend. I went to a big antique extravaganza, and there was a box at this one booth, cardboard box just full of typed papers from the 1920s, handwritten notes from some college course. And of course I just picked up a fistful of it and said I would like these, because they weren't selling the box. They had the box sitting out. I was like, you rifle through it and pick what you want. I love finding stuff like that. I have any number of things that I've collected over the years from estate sales and auctions and garage sales, whatever. Old prescriptions, old ledgers, invoices, letters, handwritten, typed, you name it. Postcards, yep, all of that. All of that. And I love using those things in collage work. And I typically do them in a seasonal situation. I make seasonal art, things to celebrate the season, so I can rotate my art throughout my house. And I have all the major seasons represented, but many times I don't have enough of a season to fill. Like I have a couple of plate rails. What do you want? Not plate rails. Shelf, like a picture shelf, picture ledge. There you go. And so I supplement with other people's art that I buy or pick up along the way. But I would ultimately love to. It's like at Christmas time, you got nutcrackers and Santa Clauses and what have you. And I have mine in there, sprinkled in there. But ultimately, I would like to replace all of my commercial art with pieces of my own. Because I decorate for. There's a couple spots in my house that I use the word decorate lightly. I accessorize my tablescapes with, or my foyer table as you come in the front door. Bunnies for the spring and flag Americana stuff in the summer and then the usual stuff in the fall. My mother, bless her, was a quilter. And she made the most beautiful quilts, and many of them are wall-hanging quilts. And there's this one that's the 4th of July one that is it's Americana, but it's, got a lot of flags, and it is just spectacular. And when she passed, I said to my siblings, I really want I don't care about the ones that go on the bed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll take those too, but if we're doing some schoolyard pick 'em on the quilts, I want the wall hanging ones. And my mother apparently was extremely fond of fall and the autumnal colors. And so there's a metric ton of those, more than I can put up actually, wall hanging wise. So I use some of them as table runners or throw across the couch or the back of a chair or what have you. But I've made the executive decision that I'm going to make a couple of quilts going forward. I know. Adding another medium to my discipline is not a good idea. But I'm not going to make big ones, bed ones. I'm going to make quilts that are seasonal. And mostly I'm just going to fill in for the seasons that she didn't really do a lot of them. She's got a ton of Halloween and fall and turkeys and pumpkins, and they're wonderful. But I want to do bunnies and spring flowers and some other things. But have I started it? No. Is it an idea? Yes. Have I ever made a quilt in my life? Again, no. But I do have a sewing machine. I do sew paper. I know, odd, but I do. I love the look and the texture. I do that in my collage art as I sew. But I think the things I've learned from sewing paper and watching, sitting at my mother's foot. I mean, I was a girl, my mother's not begging, but encouraging me strongly to learn how to sew. And so there'd be a few times where she'd sit me down with a pattern and some fabric, and usually she'd try to pick a project that I'd be excited about, or I would pick the project and we'd go buy the fabric, and she would give me the pattern and start trying to make me her pupil, and man, I pushed hard against that. I did not want to learn it. That's not true. I thought I wanted to learn it, but when it came right down to it, I was a cross stitcher back in that day. I would rather sit down and cross stitch than sit down and sew fabric. And so when I had to be coerced and cajoled into sitting down at the sewing machine. I have a blank right here. We talked about this yesterday. Yeah, it's been, I shut it down. You didn't know it, but it's okay. I need to fix that now. It was late and my thumb was hurting. There's a barometric pressure changes. This thumb hurts. Anyway, that knuckle. We got rain today, so that's what it was. My thumb was being a weatherman last night. Alright, I'm going to finish this little doodaddy square, which I'm kind of all over the place with here. And then get the stencil out and fix those two gaping holes. Alright, so we got that spot there. I think that's a little big. Yep. This triangle is often one of my fixers. Let's see if we can do this one. That one seems good. Okay, like that. And then, let's see. Could I figure out what's the missing piece by laying it back down, matching it up? Sure. That would be too easy. Oop, it's a little too far north. All right. I think we can fix that. No eraser boogies in the wet paint. All right, what triangle was that just now? I don't know. Oh, this one. Let's go a little further south with that. But don't draw your pencil line too dark. Oh, we did it twice. All right, third time's the charm on this. I know, I could use a kneaded eraser. I choose to walk on the wild side. All right, let's scooch this over. There, that's better. All right. Let's pick up some pigment. Now I'm afraid I got too pale down here. I'm gonna try to put a darker one in here. Just Dawn. Mistake, danger. Dang. I like the color, but it doesn't go with the rest of the homogenized greens. Rat. Now I'm gonna have to do that again somewhere else. I picked up some full strength pigment off the side because I was trying to make it dark, and it was too much. And now your eye goes right there. So what I'm going to do is grab a little more of that and come up here, maybe put it, oops, off camera. So your eye goes right there, right? So now what I'm going to do is put it up here. Too much. I'm not sure that did it, but I think it'll be all right. Okay, carry on. Eraser schmutz.
I'm afraid I watered these pigments down too much now. What I should have done was just wet the brush a bit more so I could keep the full strength pigment when I want it. But here we are. Oh, too far. Okay. update, pigment update. Here we go. And this is what we're down to, and we are still in pigment. It's a plenty. Now this is fairly watered down, but you can see the little globules here on the side of full strength pigment that this is the pigment that will, this is the palette that will not go away. All right, so now let me raise the camera up a bit. Slowly, slowly. And then let's do a before and after. This is the first time we did the, I'm calling it the stained glass effect. Very under the sea. And this is the muted. And a lot of gray, a lot of gray-green, blue-green, earthy greens. I like them. I like them both. I like them both for different reasons, obviously. And this is just, wow. But this is cool, too. Kind of reminds me of the, you know, some of the earthy colors from some of the Daniel Smith and others. And I'm kind of a fan. So anyway, thanks for joining me again for a marathon session of painting and talking. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.